How do you know when it's time to leave?
Yeah, well, read the room.
Vibes are off?
Are the vibes off? I think if you dread going to work, that's a pretty telling sign. If you're having sleepless nights, if you're
Wow.
sitting there sort of, wishing Friday came sooner, I think all of that is very, your body tells you before maybe your mind catches up. So, I think if you're in a situation like that, protect yourself. Also, there's so many things that people can do, even if they love their jobs. But there were things that I hadn't done in 10 years. I hadn't updated my resume. I had not gone on LinkedIn. I hadn't downloaded a single contact or backed up an email. So when this happened to me, I felt like the triage that needed to be done just to sort of save the simple things that you could be doing along the way to sort of put yourself in a better place. If I had done some of those things, maybe I would have felt a little more confident in the next step.
You all know Brooke Baldwin.
Yeah.
She was a high-profile CNN news anchor for more than a decade with her own show. It was her dream job since she was a little girl. And then she was fired in 2021. This year, Brooke gave a TEDx talk titled, "Getting Fired from My Dream Job Taught Me About Truth," and wrote an essay for Vanity Fair titled, "Leaving CNN Was How I Found My Voice." So hi, Brooke. Good to see you.
Hi, everyone. I needed this book 4 years ago. I needed it 4 years ago.
You described getting fired as an unraveling, but in a good way. How so? Let's talk about that.
I mean, at the time, not so much. And I'm listening to all of y'all, and I'm like, there was no HR involved in mine. I was like, does anyone want an exit interview? No. Okay. I can't tell the truth as to why I'm actually leaving. No. Okay. That was so hard. And my bar was 3 weeks in the British Virgin Islands drinking a lot of Dark and Stormies. That said, after I wiped, my tears and had wiser friends say to me, Brooke, this is a gift. This is a gift. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Ultimately, I realized this was the beginning of my unraveling. Like, Oprah, you say this, and it's so right on. It's like the universe comes, and first it's the whisper. And we don't really always, we're like, I don't want to hear. And then comes the knock, and we're like, I don't want to know who's on the other side of the door. And then, as I put it, like the frying pan to the forehead.
Yeah.
And I got the frying pan, and I only now know that I needed it, that I had veered so totally off my path, and I needed to come home to myself, which is exactly what I've been doing.
Wow. But did you know why at the time you were being fired, and was it a surprise?
It was a total surprise. Who I think it was Laura who said, I had sort of 1 foot out the door. I knew I wasn't in full alignment. I knew that, I was into covering stories, using my humanity, my authenticity. And I think the currency more and more in cable news was around being pugilistic and interviewing people and having these cable news food fights. And it just wasn't my jam. There are people way better at that than me. And so one day I got a call, during a Trump impeachment trial, and he got impeached, and that was my version of April Fool's Day, and I got impeached as well, and
yeah.
and to this day I have no idea. I got fired without cause. I have that on paper, and that was part of the hardest part. It's like, I had this perseverating, like, I'm a good person. Like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? But it needed to happen, and I know that now.
How did it affect your self-identity? I think particularly people who are in high-profile jobs that other people recognize as high-profile jobs. Yeah. You lose yourself in that job. You lose yourself in the identity of what you do. So how did it affect how you saw yourself? I've also heard this from other women who aren't in high-profile jobs. You become and I know you all talk to lots of people. So I want your thoughts on that, and then your thoughts on that.
Yeah. No, I mean, my identity was inextricably linked with those 3 little letters. Like, in all my, time at CNN, I would make phone calls and be, CNN's Brooke Baldwin. I'm CNN. This is Brooke calling from CNN. And then all of a sudden, record scratch, I'm just making a phone call, and I'm just Brooke. Who's just Brooke? And
yeah.
And I had to have a real sort of come to Jesus with who that person is. But, to all of y'all's point, I have in coming home to myself, I literally get down on my knees and pray all the time. It helped me free myself to now figure out, who does who is just Brooke and what does just Brooke now want to do?
Yeah.
Did a lot of people talk about self-identity?
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy thing to do. If you enjoy what you do and you're passionate about what you do place some of your value in what you do. But that's the dangerous part if it becomes all of your value. And, it's an easy thing to say don't do it, but we all do it, especially, in any business. Again, there's status, there's comfort, there's all of these things.
The Oprah show was
reward.
my life.
Yeah.
It was my life. I know, and similar to you, Brooke. It was that's all I did.
Everything.
Yeah.
I went to work, I did work, and then I got up and went to work again. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it's a very seductive thing, obviously, and it's a very rewarding thing. But you have to just peek around it a bit, just to remind yourself that there is something else out there, to keep something else going on in your life, your friends, your family, some other thing that just broadens you as a person. So when this happens, you're not totally laid out. You know what I mean? And that's what's really, really hard, though.
Yeah. Christina?
Yeah, and I think we live in an interesting time where the types of jobs that people are able to create when they walk away from something as monumental as what you had built and what Brooke's role on CNN was. There's so many more opportunities out there than there were when we were coming up, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's been really exciting to sort of see people who lose their jobs create new opportunities to start working for themselves. The landscape has changed so dramatically, even in the 2.5 years since we left our positions. And I think that's such a good reminder that you can create something new out of the ashes.
Yeah, I love what Brooke said too about coming home to herself. I think no matter who you are, no matter who you are, when it happens, you have to give yourself room to be still, have the drinks, go out and do the drinks.
Lay on the sofa.
Do the tears, all of that. But be still enough to come back home because it is a resetting for yourself. No matter who you are, I think it's a resetting.
It is. And honestly, I mean, my husband came up with this. He calls it the Johnny Appleseed rule, where basically, you don't know this, but in any career you're in, if you're a nice person and you've worked hard, you're actually throwing seeds around.
Yeah.
All the time, unwittingly. And then when you need it, you look around and there's a little orchard for you because you've created this world for yourself. And people will show up for you. Don't be shy. Ask them. If you've done good work and you have good relationships, people will show up for you. And don't isolate yourself and open yourself up to that because you're reminded of who you are and not what your job was.
Absolutely. Brooke, what do you want to say to anyone listening about how you recovered, what didn't work, what did?
I think one of the things that was actually the hardest part was I really had to get to know my younger self. We had to be in deep conversation, because when I was graduating college and all my girlfriends were living in the big city and living these, Sex and the City exciting lives, I was moving to small town America. I'm rolling the teleprompter under the desk with my foot. I'm covering water skiing squirrels. I'm working all the graveyard shifts. I dated the wrong guys. I put off having kids. My eggs were still frozen. And so I had to tell her, talk to your younger self. She's not disappointed in you. You're going to make her proud. Just watch and wait and have faith. And speaking of the drinking, I'll end with this. I quit. For the first time in my life, I realized, gosh, with all this change happening for me, I felt myself starting to reach and numb in a way that I felt was unhealthy. And I feel fortunate that I could just quit cold turkey like that. But clarity is a gift. That's where I am.
Clarity is your gift. Yeah.
Agree.
And it takes time to get there.
It does. It does. Years.
It does. Well, thanks, Brooks. Good to see you.
you.
Good to see you.